It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, welcome to another episode of AggroChat. This is number 6. Today I'm joined by my good friends Ashgar and Kodra, and
Hello.
Ray can't make it this weekend, so we're proceeding ahead.
Hello.
Ash, what have you been playing?
A variety of things. Super Time Force came out this week, so I've been playing that a bit. Still playing ESO as well.
Kodra, what are you playing?
So I've been playing a lot of Hex. I've been playing ESO. I've been playing a little bit of Wildstar, a little bit of Guacamelee, and now I'm playing Final Fantasy V.
Yeah. We'll talk about that in a little bit. I've been playing a lot of mini things. I've played quite a bit of Archage this week. Played a little Elder Scrolls, a little bit of Rift, and right now, today, I've been playing quite a bit of Final Fantasy V. I also opted to restart Minecraft from scratch. And that's been weird. Going back to Minecraft after being gone for this long, everything feels really weird. But Ash, you want to talk a little bit about the madness that we're involved in with Final Fantasy V?
Sure, why not?
Since it's your idea.
I take full credit for the idea. Actually, I can't take full credit for the idea, but it is my fault that we're all doing it.
Yeah, pretty much.
Every year is a fundraiser for, well, now is a fundraiser for Child's Play, the Final Fantasy V Job Fiesta runs, in which many people play through Final Fantasy V under the restriction that you can only use a very small set of classes. And just for fun, I figured we'd try to run through the game ahead of time under similar restrictions, but instead of randomizing our classes, we drafted them. As a result, I get to run through the game with a party of Blue Mage, Summoner, Beastmaster, and Dancer, which should be interesting.
And I am currently rolling over the first part of the game with my Black Mage, Red Mage combo, which I will add to with a Bard and Chemist.
And I am currently running around with an entire party of white mages, which is kind of crap. But thankfully, as soon as I get to the next crystal, I will have the Mystic Knight, and then the Ranger, and finally the Samurai. So I should be okay in the long run.
In the long run, you're okay.
But right now, it's just crap.
Mystic Knight's not a great starter either.
It's better than
White Mage.
It's better than White Mage. I mean, that's the nice thing I can say about it.
It represents offensive output.
It's like, it's anything's better than Thief. It's better than White Mage. Because, I guess it would be Thief and then White Mage as far as hard starts.
Yeah.
Although I seem to have already ran myself out of magic power, so that's going to be entertaining how this ends up. But yeah, so... And then, Tam, that's also been on our podcast, is the fourth person in this draft. And I don't remember what pick he ended up with, but...
He has a very focused thing. He's got Thief,
Time Mage, Ninja, and Dragoon.
Yeah, Thief, Time Mage, Ninja, Dragoon. It's a buff Dragoon. That's totally a buff the Dragoon comp.
Ninja 2.
No, yeah, Ninja 2.
Well, mine is all about, getting the archer abilities to my melee and surviving. But I have to get through it with the White Mage until then.
I don't know that I build a whole lot of synergy. I just picked strong stuff. All the strong stuff. Other than the synergy of Red Mage, Black Mage, so I can double cast Black Magic.
I'd call that pretty strong synergy.
That's pretty strong synergy, but...
But anyway, so this is going to occupy the next several days for us, and I'm streaming it, Kodra's streaming it, Ash may stream it.
Unlikely to stream it, but I'll probably record it.
So, Kodra, you were super excited about this episode because a lot of stuff had happened this week. Do you want to highlight some of that stuff?
Okay, so, well, some stuff that I'm really excited about, some stuff I'm less excited about. So Tuesday came around, and a League of Legends patch hit, and a new champion came out, Braum, in the heart of Freljord. And I recommend, if you're like even remotely interested in League of Legends, to check out his champion spotlight, because
It's amazing.
it's really, really funny. But Braum is awesome. Like, he is totally Armstrong, right? Maybe
Armstrong
Yeah.
from
Full Metal
yeah.
Alchemist.
Yep.
Like, he's this big, like, shirtless dude with a brilliant mustache, and he walks around with an unbreakable door. And the backstory is, the door is unbreakable, the hinges were not. So he breaks this door off and puts shield straps to the back of it and uses it as a shield. But he is the beefiest, most manly, masculine, over-the-top support. And I think that's brilliant on their part, because supports are traditionally not very manly, macho, masculine. They're like Sona and Nami and Soraka and Lulu.
And the funny thing is like most of the supports other than Alistair, I have no interest in. But man, I love me some Braum. He's like the coolest thing ever because he's a tank. I mean, he's honest to God a tank.
Well, and so is Leona. Leona is also a great tank support. And Alistair's weird. I don't know, I would really call him a tank. He's just he is a bull in a china shop.
Yeah,
he is disruptive.
He's this weird shaman-y kind of healer. So
he's not really a healer.
Not really a healer.
He
has a heal.
I like healing on him.
Another kind of macho masculine, well, and I don't know how much you can say this because his entire theme is gems, but is Tarek. Tarek's also fun, but I really, really like Braum because so he does a lot of things. He lets me do tricky skill shot stuff. So I can he lets me do tricky Lee Sin plays. Like, you see all of these cool Lee Sin jungle plays where he's dashing around, and Braum is totally able to do that too. Because he has that dash to ally ability, and then he can come in from across the map to lay down his ult. And his ult is sort of like a Sona / Tibbers ult.
It's really freaking powerful.
It's really powerful.
Especially if you can use his special ability that will stun a mob in the ult. But it's really difficult to play though. Like I think he's going to be difficult to master because getting that shield right at just the right angle is painful so far for me at least.
Yeah, I can see that. I've been smart casting it, which isn't helping my ability to use it reasonably. But I'm getting better at it. But so yeah, League of Legends came out. We've been playing a little bit of that. Also, I feel like they did something to the bots because once again, the bots seem better, which I really appreciate what they're doing with those. On less thrilling news, we had the news that Wizards is suing Cryptozoic they're suing Hex, and they're trying to drag Cryptozoic into the suit. Which, I mean, that makes sense, but
I feel like nobody should really be terribly shocked about this one. It's sad that it's happening, but I mean, for the longest time we've talked about. I mean, there's a dark ritual, there's a wild growth.
There isn't a dark ritual.
Okay, well, I think at one point there was.
There's a murder.
Okay,
Murder.
Murder is murder.
I don't think murder actually corresponds to any magic cards.
It used to. Exactly.
Yeah. It was terror, I think.
It was actually murder exactly for a while.
Oh, I don't even know what murder does in Magic then, maybe. So what I was thinking though is that it's not Doombblade because Doomblade's different. Yeah, I don't know, but I get why they're doing it. I just think that it's really I'm not a fan of it because I do think that it's innovating it's innovating in the sense that it's delivering they're basically offering a better version of the product. They have iterated on it, and that's good for consumers. That creates competition.
But it is close enough that there is no way Wizards could just stand by and let it happen.
I feel like they're going to settle out of court on this one, but unfortunately, it's probably going to mean negative things going forward. Like, you're going to see fewer, this is the Hex version of this card.
Well,
That seems unlikely.
It also depends. Like, it really does depend on what Magic's goal here is. Like, if Magic is just trying to put them out of business, then it might be a lengthy court battle.
It could be, but I feel like Wizards of the Coast is entirely responsible for this, in that Magic Online is a gaping piece of shit.
Yeah, it's terrible. I sunk, and it's worth noting, it's a gaping piece of shit that I sunk a decent amount of money into just because it was a way for me to play Magic online. And that's of value. It's just too bad that everything about the user experience is terrible.
Yeah, exactly. I feel like that this is something that someone was going to fill, and I just find it weird that, I mean, honestly, they can't go after Hearthstone because Hearthstone is entirely too different, but that's probably what put them on edge in the first case. And now that Hex is this product that's very similar to Magic, they've got to go after it, but I keep expecting they're going to settle out of court.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think that Hex is a type of product that would threaten MTGO, and I don't think Wizards really wants to let that exist. That's
While this
sort
is
of
almost certainly true, they probably don't want to go to court on it either.
No.
Because their case isn't all that great.
Yeah, but it could be something where they can just, I mean, basically C&D take down what they currently have and then drain them of legal funds. Because
I doubt that they're going to get a C&D through at the present time. So they would have to get something done fairly quickly in court in order to, keep Hex from just making more money.
Right.
That's fair.
And I feel like Hex is different enough and iterative enough to pass the muster that, it's not the same. Just the simple, stupid things that they did as it's not black, it's purple and it's blood. Some
That's
of that
why they
stuff,
didn't run afoul of any trademarks.
Yeah. I mean,
They were very careful about that.
Although I thought they were calling some of the stuff as
trade dress.
Trade dress, right.
That's different, and honestly, their case on that is shitty, because trade dress has to have no function in order to be considered trade dress.
Yeah, I read that article. I was like, oh, that's... Like, a lot of their case is just full of holes.
Yes, they don't really want to go to court either, but they want to, wave stuff around and get some money, and we'll see where it goes.
I feel like this is one of those situations where they have been advised by their lawyers that they have to sue.
Maybe.
Because sometimes that happens. Yeah. Like lawyers are like, if you don't sue now, you'll never be able to, down the line. So
it's true. If somebody comes closer, then they might not have any grounds.
Right. Because if they,
this is a variant of Hex.
Trademarks are weird in that if you do not protect them, they kind of go away. I mean, you lose a legal leg to stand on.
They are not including trademarks in the suit because Hex was very careful to avoid infringing on any.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it's bad all around because all it's going to do
kind of a bad situation, yes,
is further disgruntle the people that don't want to play Magic Online and push them further away from the Magic the Gathering product line.
And it'll probably mean I've already said I'm probably, not that it's going to matter, but I'm probably not going to buy D&D Next. But I don't need to buy D&D Next because I have other RPG systems I can play in, and I'm probably not going to play Magic, but that's okay because I have other CCGs I can play in. Wizards is really going to be a company that I don't care about anymore going forward.
I feel like you're misappropriating blame there. Because the developers who developed those things are not, they couldn't not sue.
Yeah. I mean, because if they don't sue now, then that leaves the opening for someone to blatantly rip off Magic. Even more so. I mean, like, I have to say, when I was looking through the cards when they originally released that one website that had the data mined information, I'm like,
These all
oh
look
my
real
god,
familiar.
these are all cards from Magic. They're just different named, but it was different enough that it was legally sound. But if they do not try and defend at this point, that will totally open up the grounds that, well, you didn't go after Hex when they did their thing, so we're just doing the same thing. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. So, again, it's frustrating. So, what else?
Another thing, though, is that it would be very hard to come up with a card in Magic's rule set that has not been thought up by Magic at some point in its history.
Well, because there's so many cards that have cycled in and back out, and then they've been re-released and iterated on, and...
Well, they keep coming up with new mechanics. They do a good job of keeping things fresh with Magic.
But I'm saying you have to try extra hard not to duplicate any.
Yeah.
If you're coming out with...
That's fair.
I mean, I've not played a card game that did not have one or two things that felt kind of Magic-y. Even if it's just tapping or somehow disabling a card.
Yeah,
I mean, it doesn't matter what you do. If you turn it upside down or it's still the same thing.
Yeah, use this card and you can't use it again until your next turn. That mechanic
is exhausted.
Yeah. That mechanic is very prevalent.
WoW used exhausted, right?
I don't know. Tapped is...
That's what everybody called it, but that's not what anybody actually calls it.
Exhausted. Yeah.
I think exhausted is the generic term. Like, I think that's become generic now. Because I see a ton of games using them. The My Little Pony card game uses it.
And I find that funny in itself, that all of these things are popular enough and widespread enough that there's become an agreed-upon generic term for each of them. So resources, or instead of mana, or it's...
That resources is less generic. Like, it seems to shift every single time.
Yeah.
Like, in Hex, it's...
Resources.
It's resources?
Yes.
What is the, it's
threshold?
Charge, threshold?
You think of charges or threshold?
It's definitely not called threshold, I thought. Is it?
Threshold is how many of each of you have played.
Oh, okay. That's funny that they call it that. Since threshold is a very recent Magic term that is becoming more and more widely used.
So what is threshold in Magic term?
Threshold is a mechanic in Magic where you count up the number of symbols, mana symbols you have on constants in play, and that substitutes in for X. So the big card around this is, they call it Gary, but the card name is actually Grey Merchant of Asphodel. I believe it's a 2 black and 2 colorless. When it comes into play, you deal 2 damage per every black threshold you have, and gain 2 health for every black threshold you have. So, like, you play a bunch of constants that have black mana symbols in their cost, and then you play that guy and dome people for a bunch.
You sure that keyword is threshold? Threshold seems to be referring to how many cards are in your graveyard in Magic.
What is that? Wow. You might be right. Threshold is definitely that. What is... I'll have to look up Grey Merchant of Asphodel.
It doesn't have a keyword. Your devotion to black is what it is.
Devotion. That's what I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
Devotion. Devotion is threshold. Why did I think... Wow.
Oh, well. A lot of these terms get used, but in different ways in each of the games. So it gets confusing quickly.
Yeah. But yeah, so I'm interested to see what goes on with Hex. I really like Hex. I really want it to succeed. I'd really just I don't know. I am in this really awkward place, and this is kind of the problem with this lawsuit. Is I don't know if giving them more money means that I'm going to give them money and then their game is going to disappear in 6 months.
That's my fear too, because like I would totally open more packs or do more, draws or drafts. I mean, and now I'm afraid, is that going to just disappear if a lawsuit comes down against it.
Sounds like the lawsuit's working.
Oh, it totally is.
Yeah, that's the problem.
But the thing is it's not pushing me into the hands of Magic Online.
No,
I'm just not doing
not
anything.
really going to happen.
No.
So
it's just going to kill Hex though. That's what upsets me.
But see, if that happens, then I'm never going to go to Magic as the fallback, because the fallback for me is Hearthstone.
Well, yeah, but the problem is that it means I continue to be underserved.
Yeah.
I could not care at all for Hearthstone.
Well,
I've tried.
Hearthstone is what it is, this boiled down, very simplistic, smooth edges version of a tradable card game. It's not for you.
It's not for me.
It is a entry drug to tradable card games.
Sure.
I mean, it has made it as streamlined as possible to let anyone, regardless if they've ever touched a card game, pick it up and function. And it's quick to grab the basics of, and honestly, deck building is really simple.
Guess there are no resource cards.
There's no resource cards, yeah, so the decks are half size. So, because honestly, getting your resources right and the right balance is one of the harder nuances of Magic or any Magic-type game. Because
it's also what I would consider one of the harder nuances of the My Little Pony card game. Actually, one of the things I find whenever people are asking for recommendations, I have to correct some of their generic base.
Well, the thing is okay, so I play Shinhar in Hex, and I've been working on my deck, and it's a derivative of basically the starter deck. And that game suffers from the same problem Magic does, in that if you get the wrong cards, you're just screwed. So I totally got wrecked the other night because all I could draw were black resources, or blood resources, and I had a handful of life cards and couldn't do anything with them.
I had that problem the first time I played the starter deck.
Yeah, so, I mean, it's the same old problem. I mean, if the mana doesn't play right for you, you're screwed. And that was the thing that Hearthstone did away with and made it so much easier to build decks. And yeah, you still have to worry about, is something a beast or is something a whatever, and does it play against the cards? But you just took away the resources, so things just accumulate at a regular basis, and you don't have to worry about it. But the negative there is, to me, it makes Hearthstone a much more aggressive game than Magic is. And I know Kodra will disagree with me.
Makes it a more aggressive game?
Yeah, because you have to be attacking on turn 1 in Hearthstone, or you are dead. If you are... there's a couple decks, like the Priest deck, and to a lesser extent the Shaman deck, that...
I hate the stupid Shaman deck.
They're
Shaman
good
deck
late
is funny.
game. They're really good late game. But the other decks, they have to be pouring out resources and attacking from the moment you start. Especially the Mage and the Hunter deck have to play super aggressive, more so than you usually have to play in Magic. And that's the biggest thing that I don't know.
You have to be pretty aggro in Magic. You can't be just sitting around on your laurels in Magic. Because games will end much quicker in Magic, I feel like.
Than in Hearthstone?
Yeah.
Really?
Especially in constructed, high-level constructed, if you let them do what they do and don't have an answer, it's probably over.
Well, but still a lot of that is luck of the draw.
Yeah,
unless they have a way to delve
trying to
for
mitigate
cards.
luck.
Mitigating luck is pretty important. Yeah, there's definitely luck of the draw, but I mean, so I'll give you this example. When I was back in college, playtesting with people who were who were potentially Pro Tour people. My buddy actually won Worlds twice, The calculations they were doing was like against the popular decks in meta, they would only run decks that could win 9 out of 10 matches. And not 9 out of 10 matches, 9 out of 10 games.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's just a level I have never played Magic at. Like, I mean, I did early tournaments, and I did okay. I never really won them because I didn't have the power 10, but I did okay. Like, I mean, I would get to the later rounds, but I am definitely not a tournament type guy. I mean, I like playing with friends, and it's awesome when you do that, or random pickup games, but I'm not super competitive like that.
This is definitely one of the things where I'm more competitive. I've never been really competitive Magic, but I'm pretty competitive at the My Little Pony game, which is always a lot of fun. But even Hex, I feel pretty competitive. Like so far I'm not, like, I just lost my first tournament in the first round, but every other tournament I've at least taken a game off of people.
That's cool.
But yeah, this is definitely more in my wheelhouse type of stuff.
So I guess another big thing that's happened this week is I guess tonight is the last night of the Wildstar open beta.
Yes.
Oh, is it?
Yep.
Yeah. So how do we feel about Wildstar?
So people have told me I haven't given it a fair shot because I didn't get very far, but I was, like, the art ship bored me to tears. And so far the starter zone I'm in hasn't really thrilled me.
So which starter zone did you go to?
Uh,
Is it bluish or is it reddish?
I think it was reddish.
Okay. So you're probably the one I like.
What race?
I'm the bunnies. The evil bunnies. The Ocho.
Oh. Chua?
The Achua. I'm doing work for, like, the crazy Achua. Mundo, who I remember the name because he is Dr. Mundo.
Yeah.
And apparently he
like
goes
Mundo's
where he
axe.
pleases. What?
I happen to like Mundo's axe.
Dr. Mundo goes where he pleases?
Is it Mundo or is it Mondo?
It's Mondo.
I thought it was Mondo, yeah. I don't know what I think, honestly. I keep going back and forth. There's certain things I like, and there's certain things I don't like. But I feel like I started a Chua, and I started an Engineer, and honestly, I'm liking it a lot more than I liked my Warrior. And almost enough to play it, but I'm just not sure. Like, I've never been this torn about a game. Like, I don't know if I like it, and I don't know if I don't like it. There's definite aspects of it that fall into both categories. So I don't know. Like, I know the Alliance of Awesome folks will have a presence there, and I know I pre-ordered just to lock in the stuff in case I did end up playing, but I'm just really not sure. Like, I don't know how many of our immediate circle of friends will be playing.
I'll give it a month at least.
Yeah, I figure at this point that's probably what I'm going to do too. The Engineer reminds me in a way of the Vanguard from SWTOR, and I like the Vanguard a lot, but I will say that the Engineer feels like it's going to be a very farming class. Like, I can run around and kill lots of things at the same time really easily without really being affected. So,
I played Engineer. I had the combat wasn't terrible and I assume that I install this, like, mod that fixes the game and puts the fun in, and that probably solves most of my issues.
You mean
the mouse look
either
mod?
of the mods that
the mouse look mods? Yeah.
Yeah, I haven't reinstalled that since it got broke at one point. But I do agree that one mod fixes a lot of the problems I have with the game. Because
increases the enjoyment of my game probably tenfold. Yes.
Yeah, the permanent mouse look is definitely a feature that they just need to have in, that you can toggle on and off. I mean, if they have frickin' click to move, that you can turn on. They should have permanent mouse look. Like, I'm sorry, but click to move is the worst.
Who uses click to move, but apparently people do because people keep asking for it.
So everything that I have ever heard about why click to move is in these games is that literally in the Korean internet cafes, they want to smoke with one hand and play the game with the other. And
Wildstar is a poor choice of game for that.
I that's just what I've heard. The thing is I would call bullshit on that if I haven't heard it from so many different places so many times that, okay, sure. And I know that, Korean games a lot of times are set up for click to move. That's kind of the default way to play it. So it has to be a thing. I just don't know why. But that's the rumor I had heard for years.
Weird.
But apparently we don't smoke enough.
Apparently.
Because the thing is Shards just entered Kickstarter, and it supposedly can be configured to do WASD, even though it's like an isometric Diablo / Ultima Online look. But I gotta say, the thing that initially scared me off from the game is I'm not interested in a click-to-move game. Like, I have Diablo, I have League, I have Heroes of the Storm, and those are ones that I tolerate for various other reasons, because I like something in them, but I'm really hesitant to ever go into a game that's set up to be click-to-move.
Shards?
Shards, yeah, it's a new
Kickstarter game that looks an awful lot like Ragnarok Online.
Oh.
I think it looks more like an updated Ultima Online. There was some footage released today, and it reminded
Visually,
me a lot
it looks a bit like Ragnarok.
Okay.
Really? It's not
so.
cartoony. There was some footage that was that I saw today, and it was a more realistic looking game, similar to Ultima Online.
So Shards it's a Kickstarter. When is it coming out?
When is any Kickstarter coming out?
Okay, is it like an old Kickstarter that there's?
No, it's a current Kickstarter.
Oh, it's a current Kickstarter.
Yeah,
Got
it's a new Kickstarter, and honestly, I feel
for
like
320,000 has made 32,000 with 25 days to go.
Seems.
I feel like people are fatigued of Kickstarter, and I don't know. I don't know how to fix that. Like, that game aside, like anything about
the way
that
to fix
game,
it is having good Kickstarters come out.
Well, that's the problem, is how many Kickstarters have people backed at this point that the product hasn't shipped yet. And the time frame of it just keeps expanding and expanding and expanding. And, what has it been? 2 years since Wasteland 2?
Wasteland 2 is kind of, sort of, okay, it's not finished.
No, it's not
but
out. It's still not out. Like, I mean, you can pay your way into the technical alpha, but it's still not out, and it's been 2 years? So
almost.
I mean, Shadowrun
Broken Age
shipped,
came out.
but
Broken Age came out. Its part 1 is pretty good. Shadowrun shipped both parts, and they're both good. Haven't finished the second one yet, though.
But that's also part of the trend, though. If you think
the first
about
one
it,
was really good. I haven't come part yet.
These games that do come out are small or far smaller scope than they originally went in intending, and they're chopping it into pieces. So that's not really good for the whole Kickstarter notion either. I mean, so people are having to dial back the scope, and they come into these things with these grand ideas. And so far,
kind of an interesting case because they proposed a second campaign as a stretch goal, and they made it. It just didn't come out at the same time the main one did.
Yeah,
But Broken Age, on the other hand, was kind of Broken Age is a victim of schedule slip.
Yeah,
but I don't know. I feel like people are just a little jaded right now and fatigued at the constant stream of Kickstarters. And right now, Steam Early Access seems to be the way to get funding. But the problem with that is, that has its own problems.
I have even less faith in that than Kickstarter.
But that's actually seeming to work. Like, that's getting people money. The problem with that, though, you actually have to have a game ready to say, we can turn on the spigot now and you can play. You know, you have to have that buy your way into testing right now.
Yeah, you need to have more than just a video, which is all you need for Kickstarter, really.
And so, I don't know, I feel like there's going to be a new funding style that evolves out of this that, like, maybe you get external funding for a demo or a technical alpha, and then you go to Kickstarter or you go to early access and get the full funding for the game at that point, once you have something you can show. But, by the same token...
If you have external funding already, then why are you just not getting a publisher?
I know, like, but the problem there is, like, exactly, if you're that far along, why aren't you just getting a publisher?
Yeah... I'm not sure.
That's why I don't have much faith in Steam Early Access games for the most part.
Because they don't seem to have faith in themselves.
In some cases.
Yeah, like...
Let's take a look at the games on Early Access right now.
Part of me feels like this whole thing, Kickstarter and Early Access, is a bubble that kind of sort of worked for funding for a period of time, and now it's kind of collapsing in on itself.
You have the next King's Bounty expansion. That'll almost certainly come out. It doesn't need to be in early access. It just is. You have Cosmic DJ. I know nothing about this game.
It has a not very promising name.
You have Landmark. Landmark is now on Steam Early Access.
Yeah, and I guess that's just to...
Sell more Founders Packs, yes.
I don't know. Yeah, I have no idea why that is.
To get additional exposure for Landmark so they can sell more Founders Packs.
I'm sure, yeah.
Conquest of Champions. I actually have a key for this game.
I'm surprised that Archage and Trove aren't on Steam Early Access yet, because they have the same scenario going on.
I am not surprised about Archage. I am surprised about Trove. I would think Trove would be up here.
Yeah, Trove seems like it would be right in the wheelhouse of Steam. I mean, because games like Trove seem to do really well on Steam. But yeah, I don't know. I question how well that funding model is going to work after, say, this year. Because there's been a lot of big-name games that have not gotten the funding they expected from Kickstarter in the last little bit.
This year,
the biggest one of Pantheon. I mean, it's got
That's
its own problem.
Case.
That's its own case, but still, I mean, had it been in that first wave when all of the developer regret games came through, you know, like I wish I could rebuild my first game, you know, with today's technology.
Are you saying it would have succeeded if it had gone before Richard Garriott?
I think it really would. Believe it or not. I mean, I think it probably would have succeeded if it were in the initial wave before the fatigue set in. That, God, how many of these are there going to be?
Yeah.
I mean, that's really what it feels like at this point. It's like, oh, great, another one. Another Kickstarter.
Blockstory has a dragon in its logo, but appears to be trying to be Minecraft.
What?
I'm not kidding. It's called Blockstory.
Okay.
It's trying to be Minecraft for $10.
Cool.
Which, by the way, gets credit for starting this whole thing.
Oh, totally. But, okay, so...
Minecraft was a
No, I honestly...
different...
I can't say that Minecraft started it because they just sold the beta client. Like, they gave you an insanely discounted rate to buy in early, but you got an immediately playable thing. Like,
An immediately playable beta thing. They said it's not finished. We're going to make it better. And then they did.
They did. They totally did. Like, it was a constant iterative development, and it was amazing. And I would feel more confident if these things worked more like that. Now, granted, Trove,
That's
for
how
example...
they're supposed to work.
I can say nothing but good stuff about Trove because, like, 3 or 4 times a week, they're patching in new content. So it has a really fast development cycle. The negative there is every time I launch the game, I don't know what the hell I'm doing because I'm not carefully following the Reddit patch notes. Because the entire scheme of how that game works is different now than when I was making videos for it. So, like, originally, it was just one big world, or they weren't one big world, but there were, like, maybe 4 or 5 big worlds. And you had these things called cornerstones that were persistent. Like, you could take a claim and transfer your cornerstone to it, and then it would rebuild itself right before your eyes, but you would have access to all of your machines and, you know, any storage space and everything anywhere in the world, and by the act of moving it, you reset your spawn point. So that was kind of cool, and you could go off exploring, and now they've broken it out to where every player has their own custom world that is unchanging, and you can build throughout the entire world, but it's only like 6 or 7 biomes big. And
So
now
you don't see other people anymore?
well, you can't. Like, anybody can pop into anybody's world, but only the person who owns that world controls it. Now, there are these other communal worlds, but you have to build portals to get to them. It's kind of weird. Like, there's a green level portal, and it's for, you know, say level 5 through 7. And then there's a blue portal, which is like 7 through 9. And you build these portals to go out into these shared worlds, and that's where you find your resources, and then you bring them back to your home world. But what's weird about that is the cornerstone system still works. So you can erect your cornerstone out in these other shared worlds and still have access to your stuff. So, I don't know, it's weird. It's like, it's completely different than it was. But it's constantly changing, so I have to give them massive credit for that, you know, it seems like every time I turn around, I'm having to update. So I feel like that's one that's working. Landmark, I feel it's working.
They just added water.
They added water. They flooded the world.
There's still no game yet.
Well, combat is supposedly coming in the next week or so. I haven't watched this week's stream on Wednesday. They were going to outline how combat was going to start. So I feel like that
To be
probably...
entirely fair, I haven't watched it, so...
I haven't watched it either, but like usually when they talk about something on a stream, within 2 weeks it's in game. So I imagine combat will be going in quickly. And at that point, I think I'll care a lot more about Landmark. Because right now, I've been building whenever I just think about it, but I kind of have building fatigue to where... You know, I've built a lot of structure, and unless I go through copious amounts of farming materials, I've reached the point at which I can really build for now. But the same thing happens to me in Minecraft, and that's why I walk away from Minecraft for months at a time, is I build whatever I wanted to build, and then I kind of bored for then. And hopefully combat will make the world interesting to run around in. So, I would say Minecraft, it worked really well. Trove, it works so far. Landmark, it's working so far. Arcage, I'm not sure. I haven't played it enough to know whether or not it's working, but that's a weird situation because that's just a localization. But,
Arcage?
I don't know. Yeah, it's a localization of a Korean game.
Okay.
It's been out for, 2 years, maybe? Or a year at least. So... And what's weird about it is like you can tell they're Trionizing it. So like all the fonts are the same fonts they use in Rift. Various other aspects of it feel Rifty. But I'm enjoying it. I just don't think I'll enjoy it once I get to the point where I'm having to deal with a lot of griefers. Because so much of that game involves griefing. Like you can run up to a player, and even if you can't attack each other, you can walk up and kill their horse. And knock them off the horse. And it's things like that people are doing just to grief other people. And
you don't have interest in that?
I have no interest in that, yeah. I mean, you go to the forums and like, if you're a Care Bear, you know, if you're going to whine about things, you should play a different game.
All right.
So
clearly I should play a different game.
Yeah, clearly I should play a different game.
Thanks for saving me that time.
Yeah, It's a really cool game for what it is. I have hope that maybe someday they'll decide to make a co-op server or something along those lines. Because that's really when DAOC became a great game to me, was when we re-rolled on the cooperative server, which is completely backwards from the memories that everyone else remembers DAOC from. But it was awesome because we had 3 entire realms worth of content to explore. And that's one of the regrets for me of that game is that, you know, more people didn't get to experience all these different realms because it was amazing. And it's one of my favorite things about Elder Scrolls is that I know as soon as I ding 50 and complete Cold Harbor, I can go explore the Aldmeri content. And when I get done with that, I can go explore the Ebonheart content all on one character.
By that point, you'll probably be exploring Gregalorn instead.
Well, yeah, but I have to get to the Rift, just saying. And there's reasons. I need screenshots. But it may be faster for me to level an Ebonheart.
You'd get there faster if you just level an Ebonheart character.
Probably so. Okay, so now that we've hashed out Kickstarter models for a while, any other major news for the week?
Well, felt like there was one other thing I wanted to talk about.
So, two things that I know are going to be big news points from next week for a couple of us are Wolfenstein and Transistor, which
Transistor
both come
comes out
out
on Tuesday.
Well, Wolfenstein comes out on Tuesday as well.
Let's wait until next week for me to expose my gigantic man crush of Logan Cunningham.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to both of them, so I know I will be playing them both. Or at least I think Wolfenstein comes out this week.
Yeah, it's this week. Watch Dogs is next week.
Yeah. I'm not as excited about Watch Dogs. I spent a lot of time this week hanging out with Dalian, who was on last week's episode, because he came into town, and he is super pumped about Watch Dogs. So,
Watch Dogs is a game that I look at as, I'm gonna get it probably because it's one of those games that the concepts are something I love. The idea of being able to, it's kind of cheesy the way they do the hacking, but the idea of being able to manipulate all of these environments around you using hacking is cool to me.
It feels kind of like Deus Ex meets Assassin's Creed.
Oh,
a little bit to me. I don't know.
I would go Deus Ex meets Grand Theft Auto.
Okay, yeah, I can see that.
That's what the trailers look like to me.
Honestly, it's one of those games that I'm interested in, but it's on my, if this is on a summer or winter sale, consider picking it up.
Yeah, all that said, I'm probably not going to get it at release because it looks like Deus Ex meets Grand Theft Auto, and I've never really enjoyed Grand Theft Auto games.
Speaking of Grand Theft Auto, I hear that, I don't know if it's confirmed yet, but I've heard that GTA 5 is going to be on its way to the PC soon. But that I don't know how interested I am in that, because I still haven't played 4.
Because it's not on the PC.
Well, 4's on the PC. Yeah, 4's on the PC. I'm pretty sure.
Is it?
Yeah, that's the Nico, It's Your Cousin game.
Yes, it's that game.
Yeah, it's on the PC, but supposedly 5 is going to be coming to the PC.
Okay.
That'd be
I
interesting.
played 5 on Xbox for a little bit and lost interest.
I've heard both good and less than good things about it.
Yeah, I just keep hearing that the characters are thoroughly unlikable.
Yeah, it's kind
of whereas there were some redeeming qualities in all the previous characters you played in Grand Theft Auto. Like, sure, they were assholes most of the time, but there were a few redeeming qualities about them, and that this crop of characters really doesn't have that.
Oh, right. Grand Theft Auto 5. I keep forgetting which one. Yeah, I've not played that one. I do hear everyone is an asshole in it, though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Watch Dogs for me seems interesting, but it's unlikely I'll pick it up at launch because there are too many games coming out right now.
Yes.
Yeah, and of that crop of games from like the last E3 that everyone talked about, the one that's the most interesting to me is The Division.
That's
that's
for a while.
Over a year away at this point.
Yeah.
I believe I asked about that earlier this morning because I was like, man, I really want to play Division.
I was interested in Destiny, but it turns out it's not coming out for the PC, so I guess I'm less interested in Destiny.
Yeah. Like, I don't think I'm interested enough to play it on a PS3. Like that's pretty much
PS3 or PS4.
It's coming out on 3, 4, 360, and 1. And I don't know why they didn't add PC to that list, but...
Because they didn't want to spend the development time on developing for the PC, or so they said.
Yeah, okay, sure. But right now, the PC sales are doing extremely well.
But not as good as console sales. Console sales are just better for most multi-platform games.
I don't know. I don't get the concept of buying it on a platform when you could buy it on the PC, but I'm
Some
just not a
people
consoler.
like the controllers.
I know. I'm just not a console player, I guess, at heart. Like, I mean, I like that I have an Xbox 360 controller for my PC to play the games that clearly control better with a controller.
I had no idea what I was missing out on until I got this controller today.
It's
awesome.
perfect for games like, Guacamelee, since that's what you've been playing. That's a great game, and it is definitely something you need a controller with.
It's also excellent for this Final Fantasy V stuff.
Yeah, and I would say that, like, Risk of Rain, for example, plays way better with a controller.
I'll have to probably try that one too then.
Yeah, Risk of Rain is not a game I would want to play on the keyboard.
And when we were playing, what was the Gauntlet like
Hammerwatch.
game? Hammerwatch, yeah, I was totally playing that with my 360 controller. And
that would be totally better than what I did to my poor thumb.
Yeah, it was so much better. But the thing is, I feel like with a 360 controller on my PC, I have the best of both worlds.
My spacebar brutalized my thumb in Hammerwatch.
I actually dug up a fight pad for that game because it has 8-way controls.
Yeah.
Oh.
There are definitely some games that I'll play with that.
Does that game not work with joystick very well?
It does. I just happen to like the fight pad.
I will always play something with the old school, plus sign over a analog stick if I have a choice.
Nope.
It's just personal preference. Like, I mean, years and years and years of playing with the old school Switch. I'm more comfortable controlling that than an analog stick.
Even though my first console was a PlayStation, I'm far more used to D-pads.
Yeah. So much time spent during the 16-bit era for me. But I like the games that let you go either way. But I totally have that Tekken fight pad with the 6 buttons on the face.
The Street Fighter X Tekken fight pad?
Yeah.
So much better than the Street Fighter 4 ones.
I have that ready and available for the games that you need more than 4 buttons, because the trigger buttons are still awkward for me.
I like trigger buttons.
So the two things that I really wish I could get for the PC is that I wish they would patch in the ability to flip Diablo 3 into controller mode for the PC, because I don't want to play it on a console, but after playing it on the PS3, it is so much easier to play on a console.
They rebalanced actually mob health and mob numbers for the console versions to facilitate playing with the controller. So that's why it's not going to happen for the PC.
Yeah, lovely. But I would also like to be able to flip over and try playing Elder Scrolls Online with a control pad.
My friend actually does that.
How well does that work? Like, I know you can do that with Joy to Key, I think is what it's called.
He's level 39? I'll have to ask him what setup he's using. Because
in theory, you don't really need more buttons than you have on a controller.
I know that he's been crushing through content.
I feel like certain things would work better on a controller.
Yeah, I never did it, but I always kind of wished I had tried flipping Final Fantasy XIV into controller mode just to see.
That did not actually control better on a controller.
That is also much more traditional hotbar combat.
Yeah, it is. I wonder if you can set up Neverwinter Nights for a controller, because that game would probably feel a lot better on a controller.
Neverwinter or Neverwinter Nights?
Neverwinter, sorry. I call the modern incarnation Neverwinter Nights, even though it's just Neverwinter. It's habit.
That probably work pretty well.
At some point, I need to patch it up, because I've got a friend that has gone crazy with creating custom scenarios. She's like recreated the entire Freeport starter area from EverQuest as a custom mission that you can run.
Huh.
And she got like all the vendors and their inventories and, total trip down nostalgia. So at some point I need to go over there and play that, but right now I just have too damn many things to play. Because technically I am playing Archage and ESO and Trove, and as of this week Minecraft a little bit again, and Final Fantasy V, and still I kind of want to play some SWTOR, and I have all these games.
It's a busy time, yeah.
And I don't have enough of me to play them. And I still want to get more people that we know into Heroes of the Storm.
I want to get into Heroes of the Storm.
A 5-person team in Heroes of the Storm. So, Blizzard, if you are listening, you should totally hook the rest of our podcast up so Ash and I can have people to play with.
Would be nice, really.
Yeah, because I feel like I have neglected that game just because right now the queues are really long unless you bring people with you. And I don't know that many people that are currently in testing.
Ash, were you always in that game?
I got in... No, I was not always in that game, but I did get in fairly early.
Huh.
Third wave or something like that.
Yeah, I want to say it was a couple weeks after I got in.
About a month, yeah.
I know every week it seems like they're adding more people in, but unfortunately there's actually a fair number of people from Stalwart that I think are in, like a Hilldelver's in, but he doesn't play. And I feel bad for being in and not playing, but I should stream it more. but at the same token, I'd rather just queue with people I knew. One of the things I kind of want to do, and I just don't have enough time to do it, is I want to get a character set up in Rift to tank again and queue for dungeons and just see what happens and stream it. Like, Pug tank Dungeons in Rift and stream it. Because right now there is such a drought of tanks that it's almost impossible to get elites going. Like, I've been in queues for like 2 or 3 hours and not gotten in as a DPS. So I feel like that would be a kind of cool thing to do, almost as a public service of, here, I will tank for you, and I will get you through elites.
I did public service in Final Fantasy XIV.
I did a similar public service in FF14.
I feel like pretty much most of the healers in our guild did the same thing in Final Fantasy XIV, especially during those rough spots like Ifrit.
There was healing for Ifrit, and there was tanking for everything above that.
But I don't know, I just thought it would be kind of cool. Like, I mean, maybe I can find some more people from the community and build like a little 2 or 3 person team and run through elites for people. Because if you've got a tank, from what I've heard, is the queue goes instantly, you can fill out the rest. So it's the same problem that every game has. And I don't know, maybe I am naive in that I think because the queues are so insanely long, they will be more polite towards tanks, but look, I can dream, right? Because that's the problem I have with pugging and tanking for pugs, is that, you're the tank, you're the thing that makes it work, because you're the class that's the one that nobody wants to play, but people are complete
you are the
assholes.
Single point of blame for anything that can possibly go wrong.
Why didn't you stop me from running into that pack? I mean, and I just, like, on the regular basis, I just don't have the care to deal with that stress. But I thought it would at least be entertaining to stream it.
Yeah, I'm sure it would be entertaining.
Probably not in the way that I would hope it will be. But
I still remember some interesting FF14 runs in which I got blamed for things that weren't my fault, and then in some in which I triple pulled enemies that pulled the party around, and fun stuff happens.
Interesting thing about that, what I've heard is that community is totally awesome now.
Who?
I can believe it.
Because all the people that were
turning around in a very big way when we stopped playing.
Yeah, all the problem children have gone off and played other things.
Oh, FF14?
Yeah, that the community is now pretty tight and, friendly and really open to new people. And
to be entirely fair, tanks at high levels were kind of people liked just to have a tank.
Yeah.
So it wasn't too bad most of the time.
Yeah, I don't know. My preference will always be being able to tank for friends, but in theory, I should be doing that in ESO. Just tanking for random groups, but I don't.
Oh, man. I feel like we should do stuff for random groups in ESO, but...
Yeah, I don't know. The community hasn't
Grouping
shaken
in ESO
out yet.
is tricky.
Well, the frustration with grouping in ESO is that even in the best of circumstances, you are still going to wipe a lot.
Yeah.
It's just a fact of, this is new content. You got to figure out exactly what happens when you do this thing. So, I don't know. I feel like a Rift or a WoW is a much more sure thing for tanking content.
It's group roles in ESO are a little weird.
Yes.
I have done a lot of relatively low-level healing. I've healed at level 20 dungeons several times at this point. It's difficult, and it can get even more difficult if your tank is not aware that they can't pull everything at once.
But I would think by Cold Harbor era or Bankerai era, that would have at least been learned.
I have recently re-rolled, or at least put some points into One Hand and Shield and tried to make my higher level character a tank. So we'll see what tanking the level 30-ish dungeons ends up being like.
Yeah, in general, you have way more patience for that than I do.
Tanking in ESO is a lot of fun, but I think we should probably wrap this up.
Yeah, because we've gone an hour and 10 minutes, so... Well, thanks for joining us. Let's go through and say where we can be found. I am at Belghast on Twitter, and I'm the author of the Tales of the Agronaut blog at agronaut.com. Kodra, where can we find you?
I am at Kodra22 on Twitter, and I will be trying to set up a blog sometime this week, but I'm also on Twitch at Kodra22.
Cool. And Ash, tell us
I'm
where you're
on
at.
Twitter at hidden_wings, and I have a fairly recent blog at ashfang.com.
Awesome. Well, thanks everybody for joining us, and we'll see you next week.
See you.
See ya.
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 See you.